Shabbat Shalom. Allow me to begin by asking a potentially uncomfortable question. Do you know the name of the person that empties the trash bin at your work? Do you acknowledge the presence of the lawn maintenance or snow removal person? Have you ever found yourself being judgmental of a server when one of the thousands of orders that they bring out of the kitchen does not have that special item that you requested? Don't be too harsh with yourself, but also be honest. Why is it that we are often less patient or unacquainted with these workers? We will return to these questions, but for now let us turn to our Parsha as we prepare to sit around our Seder tables this evening. On this Shabbat HaGadol, we read Parshat Tzav. And when we look at the Torah portion, we find a seemingly dull job description with accompanying duties laid out for an ancient position that no longer exists. In the second Parsha of the book of Vayikra, God narrates for Moses the functions of the high priest, and in particular, the sacrificial instructions. As it is written, "Command Aaron and his sons thus, this is the ritual of the burnt offering." And it continues that the priest shall dress in linen raiment with linen breeches next to his body. He shall take up the ashes to which the fire has reduced the burnt offering on the altar and place them beside the altar. It is worth noting that God does not tell Moshe to aber el Aharon, to speak to Aharon, as is the common expression in the Torah. God does not even tell Moshe to teach Aharon. Rather, God instructs, Tzav et Aharon, command Aaron. Rashi explains that Tzav is a very powerful word. It means command with a charge that is to be executed with speed and diligence. The word Tzav, Rashi continues, is also used only for situations that have eternal ramifications. And if we analyze the next few commands in the Parsha, we may be left wondering, why do those charges warrant the powerful Tzav? The next verse includes instruction of the Korban Olah, the sacrifice that is entirely holy, committed entirely to God, that no part of the animal, save the skin, is left for human benefit or consumption. The person who brings this hugely consequential sacrifice wants to make sure that it is offered within the highest level and standards of halakha. The weight of the word tzav surely is appropriate here. However, the Torah only spends one verse on this olah before it proceeds to tell us about the daily cleaning of the ashes of the altar. That a Kohen must wear linen vestments, remove the ashes, and place the ashes near the altar. So why is this menial job mentioned together with the holy olah? Rabbi Yonah of Gerandi, a 13th century rabbi in Spain and cousin of Nachmanides, explains the juxtaposition of these commandments, saying that a person must realize that sometimes what is considered menial work in human eyes merits the highest accord in God's eyes. In this way, we learn that the little unglorified acts can also yield great sanctity. And in the quest for a spiritual meaning, one must never demean the simple chores. This is a message that was really driven home for me by the most unlikely of teachers, United States Navy SEAL Admiral William McRaven, the architect of the 2011 Navy SEAL raid that ended the tyranny of Osama bin Laden. Admiral McRaven was also the commander of the United States Special Operations Command. This is the unified combatant command charged with overseeing the various operations of all four major factions of the U.S. Armed Forces. And at his commencement speech at the University of Texas in Austin, Admiral McRaven emphatically told the 10,000 students graduating that day to always remember to make our beds. And to my great surprise, this was not the advice I was expecting at the culmination of years of study for my undergraduate degree. And now, when we think about being told to make our beds, we probably assume that the person who is telling us to do this mundane task is generally our parents, and when we are still children. However, in my case, I was told to make my bed by a combat-hardened 4-star Admiral Navy SEAL. And so, no offense, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, but when Admiral McRaven told me to make my bed, I really listened. Admiral McRaven instructed us, if you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you will never do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives encouragement that tomorrow will be better. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. There's something profound in Admiral McRaven's words. And this year, we have come to terms with just how much of our lives are truly out of our hands. McRaven is asking us and pushing us, what are those things that we can do, that we can guide and harness and perhaps even own? That the little things matter. That perhaps the framing of our life's duties into big tasks and little tasks might not always be entirely helpful. For the impact of either category can be exponentially larger or smaller than they initially appear. In Parshat Tzav, we see some mitzvot that are akin to making your bed. And this idea is truly incredible. God, the infinite and indescribable ruler that exists beyond time and space itself, gives the Israelites tangible, doable tasks that allow them to achieve a higher and holier sense of being. It is also a reminder for us that making the world a better place can come one step at a time through simple, ordinary, everyday actions, just as much as it can come through dynamic, dramatic events of the history books. The great Yiddish writer Micah Joseph Berechevsky penned that washing your hands before a meal is in itself a trivial act. But when you wash your hands by the command of God, the souls of all the generations that lived and died to sanctify God's name come into some kind of contact with you. It is not always what we do, or even how we do it, but sometimes it is the why that makes small, trivial tasks so important. There is very little cosmic purpose in eating a piece of matzah with bitter herbs on it. How we celebrate Pesach is of much less significance than why we gather around the Seder table. Understanding that we have this festive meal in order to teach ourselves and our children and every generation the collective history, the collective memory of the Jewish people. This makes making matzah ball soup a sacred task. As Rabbi Spolansky reflected in her video message to the congregation yesterday, you may not have gotten to polishing the silver this year, and that is absolutely okay. But any action you have taken, big or small, To prepare your home for Pesach is a huge feat, and you should be applauded for your efforts. As we continue reading Parshat Tzav, we see an explanation of the everlasting fire. We know there are various janitorial duties which need to be taken care of in the ancient temple. As it is written, he shall put off his garments, and he should put on other garments, and carry forth the ashes without the camp unto a clean place. The priest has to take the trash out of the bins in full sight of the community. There is no exception for this dirty work. The priest's duties, while necessary for God, are just as important as a symbol for the whole nation. In other words, even the boss has to sweep the floors. He's not above any task that someone else might have to do. Or as one of my rabbinic mentors says, don't think for a second that setting up the chairs for the Shabbat service is beneath the role of the rabbi. We find in our Parsha too that no task was underneath the prestige of the priesthood. And this continued even into the times of the Great Temple in Jerusalem. In this mystic place where heaven and earth connect, the most important person in the building still needs to clean the filtering grates. The high priest needed to clear the bones and other animal parts from clogging up the pipes. No matter how much special priestly training one received, they were still required to put their hands in the muck and clean it out. And this is an important lesson from which we can learn. We are all called to live in the tradition of the high priest. We have a tendency to make our jobs hierarchical, seeing others as below or above us, judging others' work as more or less important. But why? Why is anyone considered better just because they could afford a different degree from a different college? Or not? The answer is they are not. We are not. We should not look down upon those who work as waitstaff or housekeepers just because some may think the work they do is of less significance than ours. Now, more than ever, we recognize the importance of the work of those who society might have previously deemed to have menial jobs. Our waste management collectors, grocery store clerks, delivery drivers. These are the modern-day heroes in the age of COVID. And at the very least, instead of being judgmental, we should acknowledge and thank. So I will ask again, do you know the name of the person that empties your trash bin? How often do you thank your maintenance staff? How patient are you with the college student that messes up your order at Starbucks or left out an item from your curbside pickup? This Shabbat, when we think of all the things the priests are commanded to do in the service of the sacrifice, let us also think of all of the people who do the jobs we may not enjoy. As inheritors of the priestly tradition, it is our job to thank and acknowledge them for all of the hard work that they do to support themselves and their families. And when we do this, we can understand that we are not above anyone, but rather we are with them. I will conclude with the teaching from the great agricultural Zionist A.D. Gordon, who wrote, "You work here on the farm simply without philosophizing. Sometimes the work is hard and crowded with pettiness, but at times you feel a surge of cosmic exaltation, like the clear light of the heavens. And you too seem to be taking root in the soil which you are digging, to be nourished by the rays of the sun, to share life with the tiniest blade of grass, with each flower. Living in nature's depths, you seem then to rise and grow into the vast expanse of the universe. A.D. Gordon and indeed Parshat Zav show us that even the most mundane act can yield immense spiritual rewards and make us better people. As we gather around our virtual Seder tables this evening, let us remember the opening verses of Parshat Zav, reminding us that while they appear to be the big mitzvot of the Olah and the small mitzvot like sweeping the ashes of the altar, they all deserve the command Tzav. When we fulfill any mitzvah, it should be with the conviction and love of God and our people. Whether the mitzvah is as big as saving a life or as small as eating matzah and maror. There are no jobs too small. There is no task done in good faith that does not merit sanctity. May we find the strength to persevere through these challenging times. May we feel the presence of the sacred as we face each moment, big or small. And this year, we are slaves. Next year, we will be free. May we all be blessed with Shabbat safety, Shabbat peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon v'Chag Sameach.